All right, folks, you've heard the headlines. Inflation's down, interest rates might drop, and apparently everything's under control. Except it's not, because behind the political chaos, one unelected man has quietly helped wreck the economy, and he's still in charge. His name? Andrew Bailey, Governor of the Bank of England, the man who printed £500 billion and then acted shocked when it lit the economy on fire. So how did we get here? Why does your mortgage cost double? And why is the bank now losing more money than the entire Ministry of Defence? Let's break it down, because we're not heading into a crisis. We're already living through it. Let's rewind to 2020. Just before COVID lockdown, Sajid Javid resigned as Chancellor after a spat with Dominic Cummings. Cummings wanted Andy Haldane to run the Bank of England, a free thinker not afraid of groupthink. But Javid insisted on Andrew Bailey. Why? Because he was safe. Turns out safe meant asleep at the wheel. Bailey took over, and a few weeks later, Britain was shut down. Cue the money printer. To cover furlough, lockdown grants and the fantasy of free money, Bailey hit Control P on the economy. He printed £200 billion, then £100 billion more, then another £150 billion for Christmas. By the end, we were looking at nearly £500 billion pumped directly into the economy. Unlike the 2008 crash, where money stayed with the banks, this time it went straight to households and businesses, and just like that, inflation took off. Well, one Bank of England insider summed it up. It's quantitative easing that's really put us up the shitter. As prices climbed, Bailey didn't panic. He shrugged. It's transitory, he said. Meanwhile, Andy Haldane, the guy Cummings wanted, was warning of an inflation spiral in summer 2021. Bailey's response? Raising interest rates won't produce more gas or semiconductor chips. True, but it would have stopped the pound going up in flames. By late 2022, inflation peaked at 11%, more than 5 times the Bank of England's 2% target. Now to Liz Truss. Her infamous mini-budget did light a fire under the bond market, but the dynamite, that was already there. Pension funds were loaded with risky products called liability-driven investments. These were highly sensitive to interest rate swings. The Bank of England ignored warnings and started selling bonds days before Truss's budget. Yields soared, panic spread, and Bailey made it worse by giving pension funds just 3 days to fix it. The Bank of England later admitted 2/3 of the spike in yields wasn't Truss's fault. It was liability-driven investments blowing up. She struck the match. But Bailey stacked the kindling. So how did they miss it? Well, the bank's forecasting model, hilariously named Compass, was called Unfit for Purpose by former US Fed Chair Ben Bernanke. Predictions were a joke. In late 2021, they said inflation would peak at 4.8%. It hit 11% instead. Their GDP forecast during COVID, worst of any major central bank. If a private company was that wrong, the boss would be sacked. But Bailey's still there, steady, dull, and deeply wrong. Now the bank's in damage control mode. They're selling off the gilts they bought during QE, a process called quantitative tightening. The result, the Bank of England has lost 4 times more money than the US Federal Reserve. That's right. The British taxpayer is footing the bill for one of the worst financial decisions in modern history. Meanwhile, interest on the national debt is double the UK defence budget, and over 1/3 of homeowners still haven't refinanced into higher interest rates. The pain's still coming. But here's the worst part. Bailey's addiction to cheap money didn't just fuel inflation, it rewired public thinking. We now live in a country where voters expect Scandinavian welfare with American tax rates. Politicians promise everything, cost nothing, and the media act surprised when the bills show up. This isn't a future crisis. It's now, and the Bank of England helped build it. Andrew Bailey's term runs until 2028. The only way out is if he resigns or goes bankrupt. So ask yourself, if your mortgage jumped by £500 a month, if your energy bills doubled, if your pension's on the line, Shouldn't the man who printed the money and missed every warning face consequences too? Let me know what you think in the comments. Should the Bank of England be held accountable? Should monetary policy be reformed? And if you're sick of being gaslit by people who failed upward, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is TruthCast UK, and we don't take economic spin at face value.